My name is Dorota Burchard-Sosnowska. I work in Euclid team at ECA, and today I will have a pleasure to present you Euclid 6. But firstly, I would like to remind you what is the agenda of the day. So during this IT tool training, firstly, I present you Euclid. Then there is a short break. We have exercise on SPC Editor. Then 1 hour break, and R4BP3 exercise. As a very first introduction and reminder, when you need to do the application for the active substance or authorize the biocidal product, we offer you at ECA 3 main IT tools, and those are Euclid 6. This is the database to store your data and prepare dossiers. Then SPC Editor, this is the tool to manage your summary of product characteristics. And finally R4BP3, which is the case management and submission tool. And today you will see those tools in the order that displayed here. So now I can start my own presentation on Euclid 6. And what will be the agenda? So I will give you a presentation on around 20-25 minutes about Euclid 6.3, which was released yesterday. I will focus on the new web user interface, and I will list some main improvements related to the biocides. Then I will remind you what is the structure of the biocides dossier. We also prepared for you a demo on the families. So the purpose of the demo is to make you familiar with the web user interface before you do your own exercise, and also to show you how to build the family. And then we will do the hands-on training. This time it will be active substance generated in situ. So during the training, you will see the web user interface. You will create a biocidal product dataset, then 2 dossiers. We will export those dossiers. And at the end, you will have a chance to validate a biocidal product dataset and correct an error. So I will start with introduction to Euclid 6.3. As I mentioned, yesterday we have released the new version of Euclid 6.3. This version contains some format changes, and the main change is also that we have now a new web user interface, in addition to the existing one with which you are familiar already. Biocides dossier can be, of course, submitted still using 6.1, 6.2, and but of course we highly recommend you to install the new version as soon as possible, because this is improved version. And then if you install the 6.3, but for example your colleagues are still using 6.2, you can still exchange your files. We have the function in the export wizard. You can select export to the previous major version, which means that when you create your dossier in 6.3, you use this box. You can export it so it will be compatible with 6.2. We inserted the new web user interface. So what are the main reasons we did it and the main benefits? This new web user interface requires only a standard web browsers, which means that this is accessible from every place, wherever you are and you are connected to the internet. You can work on your datasets and dossier. You can search any text on the screen by using Ctrl F. Like in all browsers, you can zoom in and zoom out. Every document has an URL, which makes the sharing of the documents very easy. You can open more windows and tabs at the same time, so it is easier to navigate. For example, in one tab you can have a product, in another tab the substance. page can be bookmarked, so you can easily come back to the place we finish your work. And then there are still some gaps between the classic user interface you are familiar with and the new one. We are reducing those gaps, and we aim to replace the classic user interface by the web user interface by the end of next year, so 2019. And the example of such a gap is a report generator. At the moment is available only in the classic user interface, but in the spring next year it will be available also in new web user interface. Now I would like to show you quickly what are the main improvements we did in Euclid 6.3 for the biocides. The first big change is for microorganism. We have new submission type for a substance. It means that when you are creating a substance, you can select the table of contents BPR microorganisms, and this table of contents follows closely Annex 2, Title 2 of the BPR. Dossiers are still created based on the product, the same two type of the dossier as you know already. And what is very important to have a dossier done correctly with the correct table of contents. In the substance dataset in section 2.1, you have possibility and you should select the type of substance, microorganism or toxin produced by a microorganism. We created also the completely new document. Section 3 in BPR microorganism table of content is dedicated only to microorganism. It covers the substance information from section 3, Annex 2, and also some other information related to microorganism displayed in other sections that are not covered by existing Euclid templates. So everything specifically on microorganism can be inserted in this section. Also, we have updated pick list in the endpoint study records, mostly for microorganisms, but also for other purposes. The good example here is analytical methods. We had only possibility to select the endpoint analytical methods. Now we can, for example, select analytical profile of batches, and we can also select the other, which is the open option. And we added a lot of microorganism units. As I mentioned, we did a new table of content for the substance, and as the product that contained the microorganism has a very similar structure as all other products, we didn't create a new submission time for product, but to make the inserting data easier for you, in the biocide submission manual, there is a special Annex 4 with the table, and the table is a direct mapping between what you can find in Annex 3, Title 2 of the BPR and the Euclid product dataset. So the information here on the screen, this is the example how it looks like. Other changes, legal entity site can be now reported separately for biocides, as it is for REACH legislation. So legal entity site document is now part of a dossier, and you can reuse legal entity site several times for different submissions. Validation of the BPR data. We have two first validation rules. So you can validate both dossiers and datasets. And as you remember, in the classic user interface in the Euclid 6.2, we had rules, some rules at the stage of creation of a dossier. So if there was, for example, active substance wasn't linked as a dataset, the dossier couldn't be created. Now we replace this solution by the validation assistant. And I will show you how it works in both user interfaces. In the classic user interface, you need to go to the navigation tab where you have the list of your datasets or dossiers. You click the selected entity with the right click, you select the option validate, and then you will see the message, what is, if there is error, what is this error, so you can correct it. In validation in the web user interface, you can do it in the two ways. You can or validate firstly, so if you validate, you will immediately see the message if something is wrong with the composition section. And if you create a dossier and you didn't validate before and there is an error, there will be a pop-up window telling that you have one submission rules which require fixing. And as you see at the bottom of the slide, you will have possibility to view this error and to fix it. And we will see it also during the training today. Biocidal product family. A lot of participants requires to see in deep how the composition of the biocidal product family is structured. That's why we will do the demo about it. And here just the most important information, reference fields that allow to indicate for which products some meta-SPCs, so the summaries, the provided document is relevant. Will be that there is more such a links now, and then also the product belonging to one family or one meta-SPC is now listed in this meta-SPC composition or the whole family composition. There is one additional field, and also there is a easy way to copying summaries and records for the family to build the family composition. And more information will be in the demo. So now we will move to the BPR dossiers. Short reminder how the correct structure of the dossier looks like. If the all components are substances, you need to have following levels. Firstly, you have reference substances. Those reference substances are linked in the composition of your substances that are component of the product. So this is active substance, substance of concern, and non-active substances. And once your substance data sets are ready, those are linked in the section 2.3 of the biocidal product. And the biocidal product is always the entity on which you build the dossier. You are not allowed to create dossier directly on the substance. That's very important. And more complex scenario, if the active substance is in the mixture, you do the reference substances dataset, and the substance dataset should be linked firstly to the mixture, which is a component of biocidal product. In this case, you have a special table of contents, BPR, basic information mixture, and then this mixture is linked to biocidal product, and again, only based on the biocidal product, if it's a representative biocidal product or the product to be authorized on the market, you create a dossier based on this product. Here there is a reminder which table of contents, so submission types you have when you work with Euclid. For the substance, you have BPR active substance information and BPR microorganism. Those are two that are used for the active substance, one for chemical substances, the other for the microorganism. BPR basic information substance is used for non-active substances, and BPR substance of concern for the substance of concern. And under the mixture, we have two submission types that are relevant for a dossier. Those are BPR active substance application representative product and BPR biocidal product authorization. And the third one is BPR basic information mixture for all other mixture. As I mentioned before, for example, if the active substance is a part of a mixture, you use this submission type. Today, during the hands-on training exercise, you will work with in situ generated active substance. So I remind here the schema. We have precursors, then the precursor react, and the active substance is generated in situ. So we need to report two compositions. First, in the first record, we report the composition of technical active substance generated in situ, and those are data sets of the active substance, unreacted precursors, all reaction byproducts, and all other impurities, and this composition needs to give 100%. And then the second record is a composition of precursors. I mean, how many of each precursor you need to put to obtain the required reaction. And this is also like 100%. Those two first are mandatory, and this is very important to put the record containing active substance dataset in the first record because of the R4BP3 format check. So we updated the Annex 2 to the Biocides submission manual with this information. And there is a third record, disinfection byproducts. It doesn't require 100% because disinfection byproducts are the substances that are or the products that are created when the active substance generated in situ is released to the environment and will react, for example, with microorganisms. And if you know disinfection byproduct, then you should report them. And of course, the crucial part is that the reaction pathways should be described always for the in situ generated active substance. In the composition section of the substance, so the section 2.9, we have predefined templates. So you need to select option 4, technical active substance generated in situ. And if you select it, you have the predefined text that this is the place to describe the reaction pathways, how the active substance is generated in situ. If you are describing disinfection byproduct, also this is a good place to write what you know about those substances. And if the process is very complex and it requires some attachments, you have the place to attach the description. So those are the basic information I would like to tell you about the structure. I will show you where to find more information. So we have the help system. As you remember, it was already in 6.2 integrated with the classic user interface. Now we have it in both user interfaces. Here the screenshot shows how it looks in the web user interface. So the question mark on the right is the way to open the help system, and then the question mark on the top is the way to go to some handy links. So Q&A, you can from here create your support request. You can find additional information, and also this is the link to ECA YouTube channel where you can find a lot of video tutorials about web user interface, and not only web user interface. On the Euclid website, we publish some manuals, and also we publish the training materials. So also the materials from today, the presentation, the demo, the data sets needed for the exercise and the instruction of the exercise, and the recording of this presentation will be published there. And then on the ECA website we have the manuals, the webinars, and I would like to recommend you to see the updated Biocides submission manual. It was updated on 1st of October, and this is relevant for the 6.3. And also Euclid has a LinkedIn group, so I kindly invite you to join this group. We publish their news, we publish there as well some training materials and information, so you will be always updated what is coming new. So thank you very much for listening to this presentation, and now I will invite you to the demo. So in front of you, you have the paper, two pages with the composition of the family. The reason we pre-recorded the demo is it takes less time if it's pre-recorded, because some part can be cut off, and also you can with this paper you can follow easily what is the composition of what is going on in the demo. You can see the web user interface, so before you do your own exercise you will be a bit familiar, and I mention in the demo some information about in this interface. So now we will switch to this demo. During the short demo on Euclid, I will demonstrate how to create a biocidal product family dossier. I will use the web user interface and will focus on the composition. I have already several substances in my database, so I will directly start by creating a mixture. I click New Mixture Product and insert a name for my biocidal product family. I click Create and I open the dataset. Firstly, I select a submission type, BPR Biocidal Product Authorization, and I select View to see my dataset. I can already now fill in the dossier header information, so I click Edit and insert dossier name. Then I save. On the left side you can see a table of contents which is organized in a similar way as in the classic user interface you know already. It follows requirements of Annex 3 of the Biocidal Products Regulation. When you click on any section in a table of contents, the content of this section will be displayed in the main part of the screen. The circle with a number indicates the number of records that exist in that section, so user can easily see how many records are available for each section. New records are created by clicking on the plus New and adding or copying the information in it. Blue icons with letter I indicate which section are the reference sections, which means that you need to provide the information in a section mentioned in the brackets. I will start now to build the composition of my biocidal product family. On the paper in front of you, you have relevant concentrations to make easier to follow. I go to the section 2. I click on New to add the first document. I decided to firstly insert the composition of the biocidal product, so I create a new record. Then I change the name of the document to Meta1, Product 1, to indicate clearly to which meta-family this product belongs. I will navigate through the subsections using the menu on the left side. Under General Information, I insert Mixture Product Name, I add Trade Name, and I close. I can specify some description of the composition and select the formulation type. And then I click Save. Under Components, I add the first component. I click on New Item, then on Select Item, and I select the substance. It will be my active substance, so I select from the list active substance, specify its function, and add typical concentration which in this case is 5%. Then I close. In a similar way, I create other components of my first product. If a component is a substance of concern, I indicate it by checking in a box Substance of Concern. Then I close and add a dye substance. Once I save, I can see a green message that the document has been saved, and I can see the composition document. I come back now to Biocides Stakeholders Day family and create remaining products. To save time, I will copy the first created document and then will correct names and concentration. I click on New Item again, but then I select Copy from Existing and select my first product. I open this. I click Edit. I changed here product's name. I changed the trade name. And I save. Under Components, I modify concentrations accordingly. Here the concentration in both products is the same, so I leave 19%. And I save. I create the first product belonging to Meta 2. I also copy from existing. I add the new record. I click Edit. I remove this trade name. I should add here the new trade name for this product. And then specify description, formulation type. Here I want to change those data. I go to the components, and now I will change the concentration of the active substance. Is the same, 8. Concentration of solvent is different. And now I can see that the Meta 2 contains different dyes. It's dye 2. So I need to remove this one and select other substance, which is in this case dye 2. And its concentration will be 5%. I save and I view document. I can check if my composition is correct. And in the same way, I will create all needed products composition. Once I have all my products ready, I prepare summaries for the whole family and for the meta families. I create summary as a new document. I change the name of the document to BSD family. I select a formulation type, or more formulation types if needed, and then I indicate all components. I start by active substance. I link the relevant substance, and I close. I add a second component, which will be solvent. I specify concentration. For component which is a substance of concern, I tick the checkbox substance of concern, and I close. If a component is present only in some meta-families, it needs to be listed here as well in the main family. In our case, dyes are such examples. A dye which occurs in meta 1 does not occur in meta 2, but both are listed in the whole family composition. I will add them now. Dye 1 is not present in the second meta, that's why I indicate here concentration 0. I save, I view document. I check whether the inserted composition is correct. I scroll down to the field Product Composition. This is the place where I indicate which biocidal products belong to this family. I click Edit, and I select from the menu on the left Product Compositions. I click on the small arrow and select relevant products. Because this is the whole family, I select all of them and save. Now I can view all components of the family and linked products composition. I come back now to the BSD family, and I create remaining summaries for Meta 1 and Meta 2. To save time, I will copy the first created summary and then will correct names and concentration. Because the copied summary was prepared for the whole family, I have to remove a component which does not occur in Meta 1, so dye 2, which is my last component. I also need to update the section Products Compositions. My products' names clearly indicate to which meta family each product belongs, which is very helpful. The meta 2 should be created in a similar way. I check if all my compositions are correct, and I see that I didn't change the concentration, so I click Edit. I go to the product summary composition. I open active substance and specify that it should be 5 to 10. The same with the solvent. The concentration of the solvent should be 85 to 93. and then type 1, 2, till 5. I save and I check again if my composition is correct. I didn't insert qualifier in the solvent, so I come back again. I find the solvent and select the qualifier. I save again. I view document. Now everything is correct. I come back now to the BSD family and create the remaining summary. Composition of my biocidal product family is ready. Now I can continue filling in all required data. Some data might refer to the whole family, some to meta-families, and some other only to selected biocidal products. Euclid offers a lot of possibilities of linking documents, summaries, and endpoint study records to composition documents. You have this schema also in your printed training material. I will show now one example of such a connection. I have one document in section 7.1. I will open it. I click Edit. In the very first field, I indicate that this intended use is relevant to the product 1 belonging to Meta 1. I can do the same for all documents listed on the schema. I save and I view document. I can see here that this document is related to Meta 1 product 1. I come back to the BSD family. I assume that my dataset is complete and I can create a dossier. I click on Create Dossier once more. I can decide to open a created dossier immediately. Let us see again the mixture widget. The web interface displays mixtures and dossiers combined into a single list, grouped by the mixture. If modifying a mixture dataset was the most recent activity, the mixture is shown in the list. If the creation of a dossier was the most recent activity, as in our case, that latest dossier will be shown in the list. So this approach allows you to navigate between the mixture and its dossiers easily via a single entry in the list. Dossiers are differentiated from datasets in the list by an image of a padlock, while datasets do not have any mark. I can open a dossier, and if I want to go to the dataset, I need to click on Go to Source. Now I opened the editable dataset. I will finish the demo with this information. I kindly invite you to follow EGA's YouTube channel for more information on web user interface. Let us move now to the hands-on training. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back from the break. I think we can start the second session of your training today. So please have a seat and we start the presentation. I saw that you wanted to keep working on Euclid, but unfortunately we have to shift to a new topic because that's needed for having an objective, which is the basis of our storyline today. So we ask you to imagine to be working for a company which is producing chemicals, in particular biocides. And we ask to imagine that your company is producing an in situ generated active substance and also is developing products which is containing precursors to generate in situ the active substance. You have a plan as a company and you are aware of this plan to get this situ active substance approved, and then after you have the approval you can market the product in two market areas that we will use as an example, Italy and Finland. So if we keep on imagining, you have to remember that you have to deal with the biocides regulation in order to fulfill your plan. And you have first to apply to get an approval to your new active substance. Then you have to get a national authorization of the product which is contained in the active substance in Italy. And you have to get a national authorization for the same product in Finland under mutual recognition. So at the end of this journey, you will be able to market your products in the two areas that we have been using as an example. How do you do that? So this is exactly why we start from Euclid, because that is the initial point. So you have to work on your scientific data, fill in Euclid format and generate the Euclid files as you did this morning, one for the active substance, one for the product, and then you have to keep on producing and putting information in other IT tools that would complete the picture and then would allow you to apply for authorization. So first you have to prepare the SPC files that would be useful in this case only for the national authorization applications. And then once you have all the data set ready, you will have to submit in A4BP3, which is the IT tool used for submissions and evaluations by competent authorities. Today, we will, first of all, quickly introduce R4BP3 and the SPC Editor. It will be just a short presentation, but then we will let you work actively in producing the documents that we have been describing in our storyline. We will guide you through targeted exercises that will be partly, let's say, guided. So there will be somebody on the screen that will be run step by step every action that needs to be performed in order to get to the objective. We will at the same time let you understand, even though you are coming from companies, we will let you understand how competent authorities are addressing this type of evaluations with the possibility that we have in this room that we have already started to understand. So we have simulation of real IT environments where competent authorities are performing their evaluation. So we will ask you to do that in the same way. So you will understand also which are the problems and the tasks that are arising from this type of evaluation. And after the guided part, where we will do that from the screen, we will let you do it yourself in individual exercises, which are fully described in the room document that you should have in your desk, which is containing step-by-step every action that is required. So I'm Roberto Giglioli, I'm product manager of R4BP3. We have a team of 10 people around us, football team almost, that are covering every single area of our room, and they will help you. They are more or less divided in a way that each of them will have about 8 of you to take care of. So please refer to them for questions in case you are stuck for anything, and in case you have also some additional issues, in case you manage to finish earlier. And also this is something quite important today, because since we have 5 exercises, the first 3 that will finish the exercises will, in the afternoon, will have to raise their hand, and they will get one full copy of the biocidal product regulation that my colleague Valerio is showing, containing every update that came, including the endocrine disruptors update. So be ready and committed to this exercise. And of course, if you have any question, please let me know. So I would start from the basics, and we would start from the SPC, so the summary of product characteristic. Summary of product characteristic is a document which has a precise structure which has been agreed between competent authorities, Commission, and representatives from industry. It's standardized, contains only non-confidential information, and it is fundamental part for every product authorization. So you need to prepare an SPC in order to proceed with an application and then get an authorization for products. As said, it contains public information, administrative information. It contains also some descriptors about the product, concentration ranges, formulation types, information on uses, risk, and other information as well. And this is the starting point for dissemination. And we will see that later. How do you prepare this document? You need to use the SPC Editor, which is the IT tool that you will exercise today. The SPC Editor is an IT application that you can find from the ECA website main page, or you have the link on the page of ECA website. And it generates the document in electronic format. You have in the editor that corresponds also to the document structure different requirements of information for single products or product families. And we will see later how the editor is structuring the filling in of the information to facilitate you in order to generate the SPCs that are required. So as said, it is used for dissemination. That's why it's quite important that you make sure that only non-confidential information is contained in the SPC. It is fundamental for the processing, so you cannot proceed with the application for national authorization if you don't have an SPC, or for many processes of national authorization or union authorization or simplified authorization if you don't have an SPC. And the information which is there, maybe you have seen that a glimpse from the presentation yesterday on dissemination, may be used for comparison. So with the new dissemination website, you will be able to extract information from the database and compare a number of products on the basis of search criteria that the dissemination website will provide you. This is how it looks like today, the interface of the SPC Editor. You will see that for single product. And it is pretty much divided in two parts. You have the left column where you have all the sections that you will need to fill in. And on the right side, the actual fields for every section with the content that will be required to be filled in. We will see that extensively in our exercise later. So these are the sections, and of course the type of information is described in the title of the heading of the left column. This was for single product. Then we mentioned about product families. So the concept of product family has been developed in order to facilitate you in putting together the information about common information about chemicals in a single SPC. And for this reason, it has been divided into three levels of information. So you have a first level of family, so-called family, where you have concentration ranges and product types which are valid for all the products that might be on the family. And this you will have to fill it only once in the SPC that is required for your application, because it's common to all. Then, if there are different types of formulation, different authorized uses, risk management measures, hazard and precautionary statements, you will be able to put this information into the so-called meta level, which will group or subgroup some products, a group of products with these common characteristics. And then there is the final level, which is the product level, which is just asking you to input information about specific concentration of the product and trade names. Why? Because all the rest of information, being common, has been already inputted. Yes?
So on that slide,
Maybe you should push the button to...
on the previous slide, shouldn't it be that on the right-hand side, that circle about product should be over one of the individual canisters in the meta?
Well, it's in that drawing there, we have two ovals inside the big oval which should be representing... Sorry. In that drawing there, we have two ovals which should be representing an example of two metas. So the first meta contains 3 products, the second meta only 1. Okay. And they are all belonging to the same family. Okay. And this concept about product family is also replicated, that's why also it has been developed, in the interface of the SPC for family. So you have the first part here on the left, which is related to the family level. So in there, if you click on those 2 links, you will be able to put information about the family. The meta level is as an example here. And finally, you have the all products, all the 3 products of the example that we were showing. Do you have any more questions? It has been very quick, but as mentioned, we will go through. Okay. R4BP3. Ah, yeah.
Is it now loud? Yeah. In the case of in situ dossiers, would I also have to insert the precursor products?
Yes, the precursor product will have to be inserted, and that will be the topic of the guided exercise that will come later. So you will see that practically. Other questions from the room? Okay. So what is R4BP3? Is a hub which is developed by the European Chemical Agency to allow all the stakeholders to comply with the legislation and exchange information. So it's the central point where industry, competent authorities, of course ECHA, and also the Commission have to interact in order to submit the applications and get authorizations and report also evaluation in order to get the authorization. It's an IT application which is containing a number of processes, which is containing also information placed there under different formats. So we have seen Euclid, we have seen the SPC through the SPC Editor, and they all have to be uploaded in R4BP3 to complete, or depending on the process, of course, but in general they have to be uploaded there. And contains also tasks and timers for authorities. It's meant to be a level playing field for EU companies. So the reason why it is common is because all European companies and authorities will have to interact in the same place, facilitating in this way let's say the consistency in the approaches for the evaluations and also for the applications. And on top of that, it's a secure place, so meaning that there are a lot of measures to prevent that the confidential and non-confidential information is leaking out of the system. In a better way, we assume, than it could be if you exchange information in a traditional way, let's say. Plus, since it contains processes, it has wizards and helps applicants in order to proceed from end to end, for the application and then to get updates on the outcome of the application. As mentioned before, for authorities, it contains also deadlines. So if they are late, it tells authorities by when they have to finalize an evaluation, and if they are late, it tells that they are late. So at least this information is passed. And then it allows also to export information to keep track of your applications and also of the evaluation of the applications. There are two environments that are made available by ECA. The first one is the one for industry that you should be more used to see, because this is the one which you should be using in principle. And the layout of the landing page contains different parts. The first one and the most important is the one highlighted here, is the taskbar, where you have all the most important functions that R4BP3 can give. So the task, messages, cases, and assets, we will see them one by one later in this presentation. You have a quick glimpse of which tasks have to expire. Most likely, this is what you will see later in the afternoon when you will log in R4BP3 industry. So since we have given you one by one a single company, you will not see any task, because it's a new, let's imagine it's a new company. So, but in principle, all the tasks should appear there. Then there is the possibility to send and manage messages in R4BP3. This is a functionality that has been massively improved in the last 2 years to simulate in some way the way exchange of information can be done in Outlook, for example. We will see that also later with some examples. There is a section where you may get some news about R4BP3. So, for example, there is a maintenance break and in this day it will be shut down for half a day. This is the place where you need to constantly check whether there are problems. If you have, for example, deadlines in your submission, so make sure that you are not falling into the... Of course, we also make sure that we do not match too many deadlines, but if there are problems, this is the place where you can see the timelines. And finally, there is the help text. So this is an example for the landing page, but in many places in the Wizard application, for example, you will have some indications about what does it mean, some terminology that you find in the interface, and helps you to understand a bit more what is required to be prepared for every single task that you have to perform. Of course, more information is available in our submission manuals that are linked in the website. This is the other interface, the other environment that is available. Most likely you have not seen that, because this is the authority interface. You may recognize that because of two features. One is the fact that the new application is not, the new application tab on top is not present, because applications are normally done by industries, companies. And then because there is this section here, which is my group messages, so meaning that this is an interface which is given to an entity of many people which are working in the same competent authority that may perform an evaluation on specific applications, and they have the possibility to assign, so to a specific person, a specific task. So in that case, all the messages that are related to that group would be reported. As mentioned, R4BP has implemented workflows which are representing the BPR processes. So every process in BPR became an IT workflow. So a sequence of steps, which is starting from one triggering event, which is normally the application, and should lead to a final result, which is an asset, which is your interest, which is the outcome, the expected outcome of the exercises today, beside having the brand new biocidal regulation. So you must have the asset, your value, so your authorization. This is what we need to report and collect in R4BP3. In terms of processes, over time we have almost implemented all processes that are described in the regulation. So we have national authorization, mutual recognition, union, simplified authorization, active substance approval. The only area where we still have some room for improvement are the Article 95 management, that we will invest a little bit more next year. But other than that, we have about 100 processes implemented, which are the representation of how the regulation is written, and of course there are probably margin for improvement, but it more or less covering everything. Let's go now one by one to every single tab. This is the new application tab of the industry environment of R4BP3. And this is the place where you have to click in order to start your submission. You will see this screenshot, which is containing all the groups of application that you may perform, active substance, national authorization, and so on. And you also perform from there grouped application. So in case you have mutual recognition of number of products with the reference one in a specific competent authority. And then also subsequent processes like mutual recognition in sequence. For example, you got your national authorization in a specific competent market area, and then you want to have a mutual recognition in another one. After you had your first authorization, then you apply as the BPR is requiring for mutual recognition in sequence. This is the starting point of the workflow that I've been showing you before. So the triggering event, which is starting the process in R4BP3. The final event, which is the outcome, is the generation of the asset, which is all recorded in this tab, if you click the tab Assets. And it is the place in R4BP where you can see all the positive outcomes of your application. So every time you got an authorization or an approval on an active substance, you may see that there. Well, mainly authorization, I would say. And every positive decision is uniquely identified. So there is a unique asset number, so-called, that you can see that in the first column on the left of this screenshot. So with this reference, you can uniquely refer always to authorities about your asset. A workflow is, coming back to our schematic representation of the processes, is made of a number of tasks. And in this tab, in R4BP3, you can find your tasks. So once you have finalized, for example, as an industry, you have finalized your application, and during the evaluation, there is a competent authority that requires you to provide more information. For example, you have to update your use description or your test data. Then you need to update your Euclid file. They may require you to resubmit your Euclid file. And if there is this request, in the task list, you will find a task to provide further information. It will be very well visible in your pane. If you remember, it is also part of the landing page of our 4BP3 industry. Every task contains an information on the due date, so competent authorities may require you to provide this information by a specific day. You will know that in the tool. Every time you have a task, you will get if you have signed up with a specific email account, a notification to your email inbox, normal email inbox. And you have the possibility to search, filter, and export all the tasks which are available in this tab. In R4BP3, a sequence of tasks, a unique identifier of sequence of tasks is called case. So whatever comes from the triggering event to the final result has a unique identifier, and you can find it in this tab in R4BP3, which is the cases one. The unique identifier is, again, the primary reference of ongoing processes, so processes which have not been finalized. And it is also providing the functionality of giving email alerts in your inbox, normal email inbox, and also contains the permanent history of what is happening to your case. So at which step is in the specific moment, if it is at acceptance by ECA, if it is under evaluation, if it is a national authorization, if it is under validation by the competent authority, if it is under evaluation, by when the evaluation is expected to be finished, whether you received communication, ad hoc communications, or messages, and all of this is recorded in the history of the case. And this is, again, the primary reference you have to check in order to understand what is happening to your application. The final tab we can go through is the messages one, which is the tab where you can find all communications that can be received from authorities, and it allows you to browse your information or to divide your information into sent, received, archived messages from 2 days, because on Tuesday this week we have released the latest version of R4BP 3.12. It contains also the possibility to add recipients in CC with the reply and reply all function. So we are getting closer and closer to what you could do with the normal managing email communication management system. Every communication has a permanent record, as every other item that we have been describing so far. So it has a unique identifier, a number that you can mention in your exchange with authorities. And every time you receive a communication in R4BP3, which may have a task or not, so there are two options for communication sent by authorities. They may require for you a reply, and then you would get a task in the task list that we just saw in R4BP, or they just send you a message that doesn't have a reply required. In that case, you will just see the message. In both situations, you will get an email notification to the inbox that you have used as a reference. And in both cases, they would have unique identifiers. Okay, that's more or less it for our introduction. So I think we can start working to our exercises. We are a bit beyond the time, I would say, about half an hour delayed. So here you can see the agenda for today. Our proposal is for you to first go through this guided exercise where Valerio, my colleague in the podium, will do step-by-step the preparation of an SPC for an application for national authorization. You will have the chance to do exactly the same, because in your virtual machine, so in your screen now, you should find in the desktop a folder which is called R4BP3 and SPC Editor Training. And if you click on the folder there, you should be able to find a file called credentials. So in that file, and if you open the file, for this morning exercise, you just need to focus on one link, which is the SPC Editor link. And if you open that one, you will access the newly released SPC Editor 2.3. So this is exactly what you will have to start working on this morning. So the first exercise, which we think should last about 45 minutes, then we see how we can rearrange the time now, is expected for you to prepare an SPC for national authorization. The second exercise, which you will have to do individually, will be the preparation of an SPC for mutual recognition in sequence. We say half an hour, but if you are a bit more confident with that, it could take less. Then we have a break for lunch, and then we will have 3 exercises this afternoon that will be the application for an active substance approval in situ, then the application for national authorization, and then the mutual recognition in sequence. I think we can start then working if there are no other follow-up questions. Last thing, again, on your document, every step is described. So you have a multiple reference if you want to work on that. One is the document that you have. The second one are the persons that are helping you in a specific group. Okay, then, Valerio, I can pass the floor to you.
So, hi everyone. I will guide you through this exercise. So, I know you will be busy already by following the room document, but sometimes I will say something which is important and for you to know. So, I will call you for your attention. So, if you want to learn something more juicy, which is not in the room document, you will have. It's better if you will be listening at these instructions. You will see there are people behind you. These are not competitors that are trying to steal your information as a company, but they are your guardian angels. They are telling you what to do in case you are you have some problem. Actually, they will follow you actively in order for you not to have problem. So let's start with this exercise. And the first things that I want you to realize is that we are on basically a web tool. We are on internet, which means that you don't need to log in. If you notice, you don't need to enter any password, which means that that's cool. Which means that you don't, the software doesn't know who you are. It could be your brother, your sister, your wife or your son logging in and creating any kind of SPC. And this has an implication. Now, let's see if we can solve this small problem here. Okay, I hope you see all the keys because I'm not seeing them at the moment. So I'm trying to open. Voila. Okay. Okay, so let's start. In the screen, you will see that because of the resolution of this particular screen, I don't have the whole set of information you have, so I will have to navigate a little bit by memory. But you see in the room document which are the icons you have to produce. So let's start by creating an SPC for your first application, your Guardian Angels will tell you which is the market area that you will have to create the SPC for. So everybody will now talk to the person just following you and telling you if you are UK, if you are Finland, if you are Italy, and so on, if you are producing an SPC for that market. What I will do is to create a single product for the market area, which is the first market area, which is Italy. According to the instruction, I will create a product which is called Disinfect Now. In my case, but only in my case, I will choose Italy as a market area. You have to choose the market area that has been communicated to you by our promoters. Now, for the language, pay attention here. If you are trying to have an authorization in one market area, most probably you have to choose the language of that market area. This will give your SPC all the indication in that language. There are exceptions. For example, if you are trying to get an union authorization, most probably you will have to start in English. It will have to be in English. Some competent authority will ask you in any case to provide the version in English. If you have a mutual recognition in parallel, most probably the reference competent authority will ask you the SPC in English, because it will have to be shared with other competent authority for the mutual agreement. So for the purpose of this exercise, regardless what is your market area, we will select now English. But be careful, because in certain occasions the competent authority will ask you a certain language. So, as I say, we select Italy here, and for the language we will have the English version. Okay. So, for the sake of this particular exercise, we will select a prototype which is a prototype 5. Sorry, we are talking about formulation type. In this case, we are going to a formulation type which is a gas, and you have to look for GA as an acronym. Okay. Now we have to start inserting the composition of our product. How does it work here? The SPC is designed in a way that respects what is provided by either the regulation itself, the BPR, or it has been agreed by the policy decision in a coordination group or CA meeting. One of the requirements from the BPR is that the active substance should always be identified, and that's clear. You cannot put a product on the market without saying that it's which is the active substance. So that's why you have here indicated that at least one active substance is required. The same message is not present in other fields, for example, like substance concern or other substance. And this is quite obvious. You might have a product which they don't contain substance concern, and you have also rare case when you also might not have other substance in which the active substance is the product. But if you have an active substance concern and you know it and it's in your product, you are obliged to insert this active substance. This substance concern. Remember always, as we already heard at the beginning, that this document is a non-confidential document, which is that whenever you create this document, or whenever is the last updated document in your case, eventually this document will be disseminated. Now, That doesn't mean that you don't have to write the whole composition right when you are applying for an application, for an authorization of the product. This means that only the last SPC that is uploaded before the authorization is approved, that has to be, let's say, checked for confidential information. A competent authority needs to know the full composition, so we cannot avoid to, at least at the beginning, to write the whole composition. But the last document that will be uploaded before finalizing the authorization of the product, you have to agree with the competent authority which kind of information you want to be present in your product. And remember that from the last days of November this year, this SPC will be disseminated. So let's proceed with the exercise. You can go on by yourself if you are ahead. Also remember there is a prize at the end for who is first. Let's introduce the first active substance. In this case, it's chlorine dioxide. Okay. As you see in the fields already we have we have all the pre-filled in fields. We need to add, nevertheless, the content. We cannot add an active substance without writing the percentage. So in this case, we will write, according to the exercise, the 60%. Since this is a free field, we can also add what kind of matrix we are using. You will see that in case you have, and it doesn't like it, so we don't add the matrix. Okay, so you just write the 60% there. Then you see that you have the possibility to add more than one active substance because you might have a product containing more than one active substance. For the scope of this exercise, we don't have a substance concern. We will add other substances. Now, please note that here you have some import characteristic. What does it mean? Or export characteristic. It means that whenever you have other substances which are repeated in your products, you can export this, just this package of information, only to be then reimported in a second time in another application. So it's a mean for you to save time. You pre-fill one SPC, you export this information. We will see that this is true also for administrative information. Your company will most probably have more than one product. You have the same administrative information. You can export as a XML file. This, if you export in that particular area, this information will only contain that information in that area, and then you can re-import in a second moment. From 2 days ago, the function of the other substance is not anymore mandatory. This is to respect policy decisions. So you don't have, if you don't want, you can avoid to write the function of the substance. In this case, we will write the first impurity. The first one is considered as impurity. And if you do insert another substance, you have to write the content. You have to write the quantity of this substance. Then we will add, in this section, especially for in situ, this is the way we will deal with in situ generated product and active substance. We write the precursor in the other substance. That's the way we write this information in AfroBP. Therefore, we will add the precursor, which are sodium chloride, at 45%. At 45%. And I will indicate in the function that it is a precursor. Otherwise, the competent authority evaluating this SPC will have a hard time to identify what it's all about. The second precursor is sodium bisulfate. Again, we have 45%, and again, it's a precursor. The third precursor will be hydrochloric acid. Okay. You see that we don't have any mandatory field to fill in. Therefore, the section on your left, it's considered to be green. Okay. I will give you a few seconds to complete this part. All right. While we are waiting for everybody to online, I will just show you this little key here, just to show you that what is the information contained in the file we created so far. You will see that there is an important information, which is this string here, which is called product UID. And this is very important. Why is important? Because every product which is linked with this original product by a relationship of mutual recognition, or even by relation same basal product, eventually the SPC contained in this product should or has to contain the same product UID. If you try to use another SPC which of course is identified by another product UID, this SPC will not work when using the SPC for processes which are connected by mutual recognition or by same basal product. This is very important because one of the most frequent requests of help we receive in our service of help desk is my SPC is not working. is not working because you are using an SPC created from another purpose. So if whenever you have the SPC, we will see it later on, this has to stem from the original one. Okay, now we proceed. I guess we are more or less aligned. They tell me to slow down. So let's go to the section of administrative information. Okay. So you see here that the system will propose you already a train name for your product. You can change it, of course. You don't have to use the same or the product name. They are two different things. One is a commercial name, the other one is an IT name, which is basically used to identify a certain product. You can add as many train names you need. Of course, because we are going to a national authorization, we cannot add different market area, for example. What you can do is you can add train names from the onboarding situation when you want to cover, for example, a product which from your distributors. But this, okay, so whenever we go then down in the section, you see, as I said before, there is an export-import functionality. This is where you write once your company address or where you are getting the manufacturer of the product form and so on, and you can then export it. Whenever you need it, you go in your database in your computer and you import it. You don't have to rewrite it every time. So now I go a little bit like a fantasy because this is not the content here is not important. So you can write whatever you want there. I will start writing this nice to be decided, and I will. Okay, so you can go quite fast in this section. You see that they are like a mandatory field, but they are not. There is no basic except this one. There is not a control on the text basically. The same you have to fill in not only the administrative information for the manufacturer, but also the location of the manufacturer, because so is required by the annexes of the BPR. And you can add more than one manufacturer site or one or more manufacturer administrative information. Because we selected one active substance, the system is already proposing to you that active substance. You just have to go here and select it. And then you can, as well as for the manufacturer active substance, you can fill in all the mandatory field. The same for the location of the active substance. Okay, you can see that once you finish filling in all the information, you have the green check here on the left on the field you are filling in, which tells you that your file, at least for that section, is complete. Remember that if you don't have all the green on the left section, you will not be able to proceed with saving or using the SPC. So this has to be filled in. Someone is He's looking for help there. Okay. Now just wait a little bit more for aligning also the exercise for this particular section. We are almost finished. It's not that long when you don't have to write the exact content. It goes quite fast. The problem is more when you have to write the content. Okay, so let's proceed with the uses. We will have a use as a disinfectant. We will select, according to the use, the right product type, which in this case is product type 505, for disinfectant for drinking water. And then we continue to fill in our template. Please note that since 2 days we also have the possibility to have the subscript or superscript. Superscript more than subscript. That's for your convenience and to be more sophisticated in your communication to the competent authority. Now we fill in all this part for the disinfectant use. I give you a few tips here, which will save you some trouble afterwards. Because this is the field of use is mandatory. And in this case, I guess we will be using it indoor. If you write again in this field, which is not mandatory, indoor again, like many do, then in the printed version of SPC, you will have basically indoor, which doesn't look very nice. And especially for the union authorization, when it goes published on the official journal, when you have in the annex this kind of repetition, they don't make much sense. Either you write some further description of the field of use, otherwise just leave it. If you don't have anything to write, leave it blank, basically. User category, super mandatory. You need to tell why this, what this application is for. And of course, you have the target organism. Also here you have a mandatory field because you have to tell to the competent authority why this, for which target organism you are using this product. You can select basically any information. It doesn't have to be scientific here. I'm not an expert. I can just barely recognize insects, but you can select. You have to select your target organism here, and you can add the target organism. Application method. This is also a mandatory field, and there are other information that are mandatory that you can skip doing the usual method. All right. Now for the packaging. Remember that the packaging is important. It's part of the evaluation. And remember also, this is an hint that goes a little bit behind the scope of the exercise. Remember when you request the same basal product, the packaging has to be exactly the same. So you cannot, in a same basal product, we are not today exercising for that, but when you go for a same parcel product, you only can change administrative information, which are in table 1 of the change regulation, and the packaging has to be the same. So basically, virtually, you cannot even touch the package. You just have to relabel it. Okay, this is an information that you can bring home for another process. Then you have only fields which are not mandatory, but that can help the evaluation. So you have to decide together with the competent authority if they need this information or not. We see that the field is now green. So for the disinfectant use, we have been introducing all our information. For directional use, the same apply. Now let's make a little test, because I want to test something that just went live 2 days ago. Instead of writing to be decided here, write a number, like write 1, 2, 3. We'll come back to this later on, okay? Or anywhere in your field, write this number. Then you can proceed with the usual to be decided. Okay. So if you have been following, or if you went on your own, you should be now in this situation where you have all the fields in green, which means that according to the tool, not content-wise, of course, because we don't have a text analytics there, we don't know what is there, but from at least the acceptability point of view, all the fields are green, so we can proceed with this file. So basically, we are gonna save it, and I stop there because whenever I get a signal for get more or less we are all on the same point, we will save it. We will proceed. Okay, so I'm talking now to my colleagues. Can you raise the hand if you still have a problem in your area? Everything is done? Okay. Problem there? Okay, but we can wait a few seconds more. Okay, try to remember where you introduced this number 1, 2, 3 in which area. Okay, you remember that, huh? You try to remember the field when you place these little Easter eggs. Okay, if you remember, it's better. Okay, so let's go and save it. We press this key here. Okay, and save it on the desktop. Or if you save it somewhere else, you just retrieve it, and but it's better if you save it on the desktop. Now, please note that the file you saved has two important indications. It is a code, but also it brings the indication of the market area, which is, in my case, IT. In your case, it will be another market area, and it has an indication on the language. So in the code, in the name of the file you saved, you have these two indications. Now, you can keep this name of the file, but you also can change it. By changing the name, you will not change the, it doesn't create problem, let's say, to the SPC or to the R4BP. So you can give your own code from your company, or you can leave it like it is. So if you see here, if you can read it, you have the name is an SPC. You have disinfect now, the name of the product, and then you have IT, which is the capital letter, which is the market area, and EN, which is the language of the SPC we created. You will have a different market area, but you probably have English as a language. Okay. Shall we proceed with the... Okay, so now we created the SPC for the first national authorization. That's clear for everybody. So this SPC that we created will be the one we will use for the national authorization. Now we will proceed with the creation of the SPC we will use for motor recognition in sequence. Okay? How to do that? Basically, in the exercise, it's for the scope of this exercise, that is completely, it's very easy to do. In practical, then for the practical, for your routine work, that will of course require more time because you might have a problem with translation and so on. But let's see how to do it from the IT point of view. We can. Let's say go back to by clicking on the main title, SPC Editor. We go back to the you will go back to the starting point. You can starting using the exercise. You can open the SPC that you created. And then we go to this tab here and go to the market area version. So this is a very important point. Why it is a very important point? It's a very important point because in this moment we are telling to the system that the SPC we are going to create after pressing the button will have a different market area. So we basically change the content of the indication of the market area. If you try to, for example, use the SPC you created, which has a market area, in my case, Italy, and you try to use it for a motor recognition in Finland without doing this operation now, before, the system will, R4BP will not accept it because the system will know that you are asking for Finland, but you are trying to input something which is created for Italy. So in order to align the SPC with what you are trying to do in R4BP, you first need to prepare the SPC in the correct way. And this is the way you prepare it. We change the market area. The product ID is already there. It is the same of the one you created. And will stay the same. And then you are able to change the market area. Now ask to your promoter which is the second market area. If they didn't tell you, they will tell you which is the second market area, the one where you want to have a motor recognition. In your case is okay, and you select the second market area. Okay, you need to select your second market area. Don't select Finland. This is mine. Don't touch it. You need to select another market area, okay? Okay, you will notice in the name that here you have the second market area. All right? Fine. Another indication, because you started from the previous SPC, all the fields are already green because already they have the same the information you already have inputted. Okay. Now, of course, if you are creating an SPC for the second market area, you have two situations. Either is the competent authority want to have it in English, therefore you're already good to go. Most probably the only thing that you have to change are the train names, or to add are the train names, or you need to provide something which is in Finnish. Okay. So you will have also to change the language. Don't confuse this key here, which only gives change the language in the software. So it's only an external, the way you are presented with the software SPC Editor, with the language you have here. Oh, sorry. With the language you have here. These are two different things, huh? So don't confuse them. If I push this button there, I can select here Finnish, in my case. Okay, in this case I will have a market area Finland in Finnish, and I will have the content of this drop-down list in Finnish, but you see that you still have the information in the highlight in English. And if you change here in Finnish, I hope then to be able to come back to English. We have Finnish colleague here. If you go to Suomi, then you have the titles of the SPC editor in Finnish. So this is an important difference. This one changed the title, the language of the title, and this one they changed the language of the market area. So most probably, if you are requested to create an SPC for the market area Finland, and they ask you to do it in Finnish, so the content has to be in Finnish, you also need to change the language version to Finnish in order to have all the drop-down menu in Finnish. Okay, let's now let's now speed up because already we are at 1 o'clock. I just want to, first of all, save it. When you, by saving it, now you will see that the file you created will be, will have the indication that the market area is changed. Okay. I'm doing something that to facilitate the work of my colleagues after, so you don't have to do that. Okay, something that I want to show you now. First of all, a nice function that we have since 2 days, which is important for certain reason. If you open your previous, the first SPC that you created, and then you go to this key here, okay, the one on the top right angle, you will have the find function. This is brand new. You can write, guess what, 1, 2, 3, and you find it. And the results, the one results is here. It brings you automatically where the word you are looking for is located. You also have the possibility to do the find and replace, which means that you realize at a certain moment that in your SPC you constantly did the same typo. You constantly inputted something which you didn't want to input. You can do, pay attention of course, they automatically replace it with the correct information. Okay, that was one. Second nice new feature that we have since 2 days, and that has to be used with in the correct way, is that since today we have the functionality to export it in Word. Now, this is, I expected to have innovation or some clapping. No, nothing. No, you don't like it. Okay, we will remove it. So, no, please, it's okay. I'm sorry. So it works like this, basically. You open, you can either preview the whatever you're doing, you can preview it in Word. And this is the way it looks like. So imagine now you have the problem, you want to translate the document, you have your translator company that he tells you that they don't want to learn how to use the SPC, and you understand them because you didn't want to learn yourself in the first place. And then from now you can send the document to the company, and they will basically translate it from a Word version to a Word version. What unfortunately you cannot do, and you will not be able to re-import what has been translated to the XML format. This is because the Word is the less structured format ever, which means that once you work in Word, then it's difficult to have the structure in XML. So, but at least you have the possibility now to speed up the translation. You have also the possibility to, when there is some misunderstanding with the competent authority, to send them maybe a Word format when you highlight what you mean and what you want to discuss. Remember, though, that this Word format is not the official format you need to use for R4BP, meaning that if you try to upload it in the SPC component of the R4BP, as you maybe will see later on, that will not work, first of all. And also, if you exchange Word format in ad hoc communication, this is not registering the official documents in the asset, in the case. Only the HTML format of the SPC is the official one. So you have to use it, and whenever you make an amendment to any format, you need always to repeat it in SPC. But now you have the find and replace functionality that will help you to do that. Okay? Okay, so now you must have, or you should have, two SPC in your desktop.
Good afternoon, welcome back. So I think we can start with the afternoon session. And the first exercise that we would like to go through is the one which is shown in this chart here, and is the application for active substance approval. So what is represented here is the workflow, what I was describing before in R4BP. So the sequence of steps which are implemented in R4BP3 and are representing the duties that are described in the BPR regulation for the process itself. So you see here which are the tasks for every group of stakeholders. So you have first industry, then ECA, competent authorities, and commission. So these are the names that you can see in the column on the left. As you can see, the trigger is this one, so the application from industry, which we will go through now all together. Then there are a number of checks which are performed by ECA that we will not force you to go through. There are some other colleagues of ours that will help us performing the processing of the tasks for the application. What we will ask you to do will be to impersonate, to pretend to be the competent authority that will have to validate and evaluate the application. then to become ECA, to run the opinion, because this is the peer review part, and then to become the commission in order to perform the decision and get the approval. So this is essentially what I will do, and then you can follow me as Valerio did for the SPC. Now we will do that for the application. So how will we do that? I know that some of you have already started, but let's go back. And in the credential, you can see the links. We have the two links here for industry and authority environments, and a number of accounts for companies. So what I would like to ask you to do is to log in with the company number corresponding to the seat number where you are seated. I know that there are 80 numbers here. There was some kind of distribution, but if in the rows up there you also log in with 80, 1, 3, and 4, it would work. So in principle, everybody should be covered. Everybody should have his own individual company. I will use company 100. That's why you will be able to use all the others. So what needs to be done in order to perform this exercise, as mentioned, is to go up and open the link for industry, the first one. You should be able to see the login page of this testing environment of R4BP3. So you can click on login, you have the username and the password, you write the corresponding user account that you have here. So this is what you should be able to see if you manage to log in. Okay, it's very important that you locate back the Euclid file that you have prepared during the Euclid session before ours, the one which is relevant for active substances application, not the one for the product. We will use now, later in this application wizard, the one for active substances. So now the purpose of this exercise, as mentioned, is to apply for an active substance approval. So you have to go to the tab New Application, click there, and click on the tab Active Substance, where you will find ASAPP, Application for Approval of Active Substance. This is what a user of a company should do in order to perform the application. If you click on the button, the wizard for the application is starting. As you can see here, you have this new interface, which is renewed since 3.11. You have the breadcrumb that tells you which is the step of the application that you are in, and tells you also which is the name of the application. So you know how many steps you have to go through in order to get the application number and the case number generated. If we start, the first one is set case owner details. So what is required is to select the contact person from the company as indicated here. This is of course, a dummy company, and this is a dummy name. So this is all you have to do for this step. After you have selected one item in the drop-down list, then you click on Next. which will become set submission details. So now it comes for the evaluating authority. Normally, and the regulation tells that for a multiplicity of active substance approval, there must be identity of evaluating authorities. So for the moment, for this application, forget the distribution of competent authorities that we have asked you to work with in the previous exercises, and just we all select Italy. Yes. So that would be the competent authority that would have to be selected. Okay, I think we can continue. So we said the evaluating authority, we select Italy. So you click on the pick list and you pick Italy. Then the other field here is not mandatory for filling in. So after that, you can click on Next. The following step is the possibility to set an SME decision number. So this is a facilitation that is provided to applicants which are representing a small and medium enterprise. They have discounts in the application. And the status of small and medium enterprise, even if it's, or exactly for the reason why it is an advantage, must be proved. So meaning that you had done an application to ECA in order to be recognized as a small and medium enterprise. When you get this recognition, you get an asset number. If you place here the asset number, then you can proceed. Otherwise, you just proceed with the normal flow without having the discount, so the full application in principle. For the sake of this exercise, I'm not uploading anything, so I just click on Next. And this is what you can do as well. Okay, then now it comes to the point when you have to locate back your Euclid file. The application asks you to upload the dossier. DOS means Euclid 6 file. And you should browse in your desktop or wherever you have saved the active substance Euclid file. What I will do, I will check in my files, and I have my Euclid file, and there is one which is, you will see with a different name, of course. This is my reference, but this is for the active substance application. You select it, click on Open, and then you click on Upload. It is required to select a language to tell which is, of course, the language of the Euclid file made of. And then if it has correctly accepted the Euclid file, you can proceed. So now I click on Next. Yeah, it forgotten my value. And now I click on Next. And then you have the fifth step, which is requiring you to upload other files. That may be additional supporting documents that you have to provide in your application in order to further elaborate on the information which may be already attached in Euclid 6 file, or additional supporting information, I don't know, letter of access of data. So you have to click on Browse, and then I will look back to my supporting documents. I have a number of examples here. It could be a PDF, whatever that you have. I click on it, and when it is recognized, I click on Upload. It is required to indicate which type of document is about, so the type of document and the language of the document. Then, clicking on Next, there is the final page where you have a number of summary information about your application. You can see whatever it was provided, submission details, if there is a fee parameter, if there are additional informations. And clicking here, you see also the file uploaded. So you see that there is one Euclid file, one supporting document. You cannot open the files from here. It's just an indication here that you have uploaded something. Okay, then the final step of this wizard for application of active substance approval is typing the characters which are indicated here. And submit the application. So the application is now submitted, and you have indicated here the most important information about your submission, which is the case number. This is fundamental to be indicated in order to proceed with the tasks and proceed with the information to be proceeding through the workflow. Just to complete the application, what I was suggesting was to copy the case number, forget about the /1, which is just a system information, and put it in your notepad and indicate that okay. Okay, now I am logging in. This is still the company. You can see by clicking on cases. Okay, you see here there is already one case which was applied for by my company, but you can, if you click on cases, the case that you have just created is reported in the list of the cases. If you click on the list, you see on the item on the list, you can see the case details. If you click on the event history, you see what is happening to your case. So there are two information that have been reported by our football team around the room. So the information number one is that some of the application that you have just made are getting rejected. It means that the Euclid file that you have been uploading in your application is not accepted. If you have chosen for this, the Euclid file that was generated this morning in your application, in your exercise in the Euclid part, this could be one issue because I understood there were some problems in there with the Euclid versioning. So I would really suggest you to open the folder for R4BP and SPC Editor training, which you would see that from here. So the same one that you have in your desktop. If you get this information, so first go in the cases page, event history of your case, and check what is happening. If it says ECA acceptance started, it's fine. So there are no issues. You just have to wait that our colleagues are processing your application. If you see resubmit information, then you have to open the tasks and send back one of the Euclid file that you can find here. If you open the folder in backup, you find Euclid files, and you select Dossier active substance application new. This would be working for sure. So another suggestion, if you get in trouble with the resubmission, because in principle what you should see is that you go in task and you see a task which is telling you resubmit information, like this one. You click on this one and you re-upload, the wizard is starting back again. So essentially it asks you to reproduce the information that you just provided.
There is a lot of A and APPs. People submitted A and APP, not AS.
Okay. Another information that is coming from our evaluation, our processing of information. It seems that some of you in active substance selected AN-APP instead of AES-APP. So AN-APP is a process that foresees the application for the inclusion in Annex 1, not for approval of active substance. So meaning that the substance that you are applying for has basically no risk. This is not the type of exercise that we are working on now. So if you realize in your case that is called AN-APP, please reapply for AES-APP. In my case, I see from the event history that the ECA acceptance has been very efficiently performed. So I see the message validation started now. So in principle, this is what you should see if you are at the right step of our exercise. If you don't see this, it means that you are behind. So please let us helpers know very quickly so we can all start from the same position. The next step, as indicated in your, once ECA has performed the processing of your application, so basically the business rules, so it was checked whether the Euclid file was correct, in the correct format, some information very specific was present, so there was no content check on what you have been just submitting, and this is the purpose of the checks that are done here. And then there is an acceptance, so essentially there is a payment done on your application because ECA is issuing a fee for the application for active substance approval. So if everything went well, now the dossier is in the hands of the competent authority, which is the evaluating competent authority for the case. So what we can do here is to see what the competent authority would see if you were them, because we have the possibility to impersonate in our testing system, training system, what the competent authority would see. So what I would ask you to do is to, to wait 1 second, because there is one login issue. The problem is the fact that if we all log in into Italian competent authority, our system might not stand it because there are too many logins. So I show you what is needed and then we try to do it in a scattered way somehow. So what needs to be done is to open another browser. So in your laptop it should be available Mozilla, Firefox, for example, if you have not yet used that. If you are using Firefox, please use Explorer or Chrome. They should be all available in your, but not the same one you have been logging in as industry. So I open that in Mozilla, I go to my credential files, I copy the authority link, I put it here as I did, I clicked on enter and then I got the login page for authority. So what needs to be done is to go down in your credential file and find Italy. This is the login for the representative of Italy that should be put here, and then the usual password that we have been using so far. Okay, so now I am in my page of the Italian competent authority. So I will do I will process my application, and then I will let you process your application. Again, because if you all log in, then we have some issues for the moment. Unfortunately, from authority side, we cannot stand too many applications. So what needs to be done is to go on tasks of the authority. I see that there are already a number of tasks, but I'm looking for my task. So I am the Italian competent authority. I want to process the application which was done by my company, company 100. So I put in the case number, my case number, and you see that I have my task. I click on validate, and this is what it looks like if you start to perform your application. I have to click on start working. And here, this is what competent authorities are doing. So once they have received the application for active substance approval, they are also able to issue a fee for that, an invoice, since you are paying their evaluation work. In this check, they are just making sure that the application was done in the correct format, all the documents were provided, and the payment was done. If these criteria are fulfilled, then they say validate, they write you a message. If needed, they can upload the file. We don't do that in this case. And they can also justify further the decision. When that is done, they can click on complete and continue. The validation is done. What would you see in your, if you go back to your company page that is open in your other browser, in order to refresh the information, we have to go back to the cases page. You can click on that again, event history. You see that event history has just updated. So the evaluation of your application has started. And we should all be at this step in order to be sure that everything is going fine. I don't see any emergency signal from the room, so I assume that we can proceed. So the next step that you remember in our workflow is that, of course, the evaluation. So the competent authority is taking their ear, I think, to open the Euclid file, check the content, write the chemical assessment report, ask the company whether there are more information needed, communicate with them. At the end of the process, when everything is fine, they have to finalize the evaluation. So what needs to be done in R4BP is again to take the case number, paste it here, search, and you would see here, as a competent authority, the evaluate task. As before, you have to click on Start Working. We assume that everything is fine, so Submit Evaluation is the correct item to select in the pick list, meaning that the competent authority is okay with the evaluation. Now it's the turn of the Biocidal Product Committee to check and discuss your application in order to provide you with a reply. Peer review phase of the active substance approval. So, message to the case owner is fine. they would upload probably the car here, which would be a supporting document. So you have some supporting document. This is not opinion. We say again supporting document, upload. And here there is something which is quite relevant that you also need to know. So the fact that every time a competent authority is uploading the document, they have to select the type of document, CA report, the language, but also the access level. And this is quite important because if they select public to that, it means that it will be disseminated. So they have to make sure that the information, so it will be made public in our dissemination website, on ECA website. So they have to make sure, and you have also to double check with them, that the information contained in that documents that are considered public, and you can see that from your login page as an industry, are actually really public. So you don't have confidential information. So when this is done, you can write comments and then complete. So now the competent authority has finalized the evaluation. I go back into my page as a company 100. I check again the history of my case, and I see that ECA opinion now has started. Now, I will continue now. So we said that the next step would be to perform the ECA opinion. This is a task that will have to be performed by ECA. So in order to do that, I would not ask you, even though it is written in the paper, in the room document, I would not ask you to log in as a ECA account, also again for the same problem. So we will try to manage by performing this processing as ECA with my colleagues. But I will show you how it is done, because this is maybe less technical than what is required by the business rules check and acceptance. This is the outcome of the process of discussion in the Biocidal Product Committee of your application. So if I log in as ECA, okay, so again the same process is tasks. Then I copy my case number as company 100. I see the ECA opinion task here. I start working. So this is what is happening again when the peer review is finished. The opinion is submitted. Okay. Justify your decision. We say we could upload the opinion here. Again, the document type, maybe it's better to select the right one. Opinion, English, public, and then it's done, and we can continue. So as you can see, I have another task, which is a verifier. So there is a double check in ECA to make sure that the information which is uploaded in the task and the conclusion of the ECA opinion is correct. So there must be another person that is checking with the 4 eyes principle that the decision is correct. But I cannot do with the same profile, so I need to log out because that must be another person. Okay, now I logged in as another person. I exactly do the same thing. So I click on task. I paste the case number. I see that I have ECA opinion here, and what is needed to be done other than, okay, somebody has already claimed my task.
So efficient.
Very efficient. So probably if I go back to my company, I should be able to see what is happening. Yes, it has been already processed. Okay, now it's time to check the last step, which will be the commission. So I have to log out as an authority. I go back to my credentials. And we have the username commission, which would be the one that can be used. Oh, I log out as company. Okay, so I log out as now I'm again authority. I logged in as a commission. I log back in as company because I made a mistake logging out myself. That's quite relevant to check the final part. Okay, so now I am in the authority environment. I am the commission. So this discussion, peer review on the active substance approval has been finalized. I had a positive opinion from the Biocidal Product Committee. I agree as a commission that we can approve this application. So I go in my tasks. Here, somebody will tell me which is the case number. I put the case number here. I click on commission decision as a commission officer. Start working. And now, in this pick list, I can say, okay, I approve the active substance approval application. When you say approve, there will be a field where you start saying when it is starting to be valid, what's the expiry date, let's say 10 years from now. Authorization number is not mandatory. Regulation, implementing regulation decision, we say something like this. Select number, it is a mandatory reference that you can find in the room document. You can use the same one. A message. Then you can upload another supporting document. An important function that you can see that from here is the final outcome of the classification of the documents. So every time there was an upload of a document in the case, there was an access level selected as described before. In that moment here, when the ECA opinion, the commission decision is finalized, the commission can decide which are the documents that will go into the asset. If I tick all of them, it means that all documents that are public will go into the asset, including the restricted one. in principle, the Commission should say that the restricted one should not go into the asset. So this is the key moment when public documents are selected. So if you have defined as public, or the authority has defined as public documents which are not supposed to be public, then they will go into the asset and then straight away disseminated. Everything is fine now. I continue. And now there is no case anymore. Why? Because this is closed approved. And you can find it here. This is the asset number. And this is your reference. So as a company, you saw, even though it's not yours, the asset, that your application has been approved. So the final step of that would let you check is, did I notice down the asset number? No. If you want to see your asset, you just check here and you see the top one that was supposed to expire now. So let me check 1 second, because I don't see that. Yeah, of course you don't see that as a company, but you see that your case is closed approved, so that asset would not be listed into your asset because it is a common asset to all Europe. So everybody could use from that moment onwards for product authorization. In the meantime, while I was the Commission, I also approved another application. So the final outcome of this exercise would be that for you, in cases, so if you are the company here, in cases, you see your case, and you see that the status is closed approved. In that case, everything is fine. Okay.
I think.
Okay, let's move forward to the other exercise for today. I believe that some ideas you got, at least on the process for active substance approval. I went very slow for this application. Now I will try to accelerate a little bit because the concept is essentially the same. So in order to get your application, and now we're talking about application for national authorization, you have to log in and stay in your page as a company, and you have to click on New Application. After having clicked on New Application, you have to select the correct one. So NAAPP, which is the third in the list. National Authorization, Application for National Authorization, NAAPP. Please select that one, otherwise it's another type of application. They are not all equivalent, the terminology and the processes which are behind here. So you click on Application for National Authorization, and now it comes on selecting the authorities. So who is this authority? Is the authority that has evaluated your application and will be evaluating your application. If you remember in the exercise while you created the SPC, we asked you to generate two SPC, one for one competent authority. No. One for the first competent authority. Each of you have generated two competent authorities. So the first one that you have generated, whichever is, should be the one that you place here as evaluating competent authority. So in our exercise example, the first one that we generated was for Italy, the first SPC that I have. So in that case, we select Italy here. Forget about this part below because it helps you in case you would like to launch some mutual recognition in parallel, that they are not in the scope of this exercise. So once you selected Italy, you click, you select your competent authority. I selected Italy. You select your first competent authority. We click on Next. Then, as before, you select the contact person. Click on Next. In the set submission details is sufficient that you click on same as case owner. So we are essentially saying that case owner and asset owner are the same person or the same legal entity. So meaning that it's not a consultant working for you, but it's yourself working for this application. And then you click on Next. Upload dossier. Now, since we understood that there may be some issues with the Euclid files that were prepared in the Euclid exercise before, in the beginning of this morning, I would suggest when you click on Browse to go back into the folder of the desktop, which is called, is this one, R4BP3 and SPC Editor Training. In the backup, you find Euclid files and you select Dossier Product Authorization. This would be accepted. And you click Open, and it's uploaded. If you click Upload, then you can select the language, English. Next. And now it's time to upload the SPC. Of course, this page of the SPC tells you exactly which type of competent authority you have to select, and that should be consistent with the SPC that you prepare. So if you have an SPC for Italy, you have to have Italy reported here. If you have another market area, that would not work. So I'm looking for my Italian SPC. When I click Upload, this is what you should see if everything went well. So it should be looking like uploaded. Then you click on next. If you feel like other files can be uploaded, we skip this part, and clicking on next, you come okay. No, I don't continue. It says that my SPC is not correct. So I go back, I cancel it. Strange. And I go to desktop, where the one that was created this morning, probably I mixed up the SPC. Okay, I chose the wrong SPC. Now it's the correct one. So this is essentially the end of your application. If everything went well, then you should be able to get your case number while confirming the information. You can double check here the information, see the files uploaded. You can see the SPC. You can also open the SPC. You see that there is a Euclid file. Then if everything is fine, you just write the text here and you submit the application. You see that the case number has been created, so everything went well for the moment. So, as a company, now I can go back to my cases and see what is happening. No, sorry, I did it on tasks. What is happening to my case? It's not closed approved, it's in progress. Okay. So the event history tells that my competent authority has now the dossier on their table because the check from ECA went well. Everything went fine. What we are talking about is this process here. So this is the application for national authorization. You see that the triggering event is the application from industry. This is what we just did now. Then ECA has to perform some business rules check, which has been successful in principle if everything went fine with your process. And now it's time for the competent authority to perform the evaluations. So as an industry, you just sit and wait because you have done whatever was required for this application. For the purpose of this exercise, we go forward and we simulate also what the competent authority would do. So we go back to our authority page, and again here pay attention to the, and remember which is the competent authority that you selected for evaluation. So I selected Italy, then I have to log in as Italian competent authority. So in my authority environment, R4BP authority, I log in as Italy. So I log out from commission. Then I go back in my credentials file. I look for Italy. I copy the user ID. I put the password. And here is the login in the Italian account. So what Italian authorities needs to do is to click on task And they will see that there are a number of tasks which are required. In order to speed up the exercise, I would ask you to copy and paste the case number of the national authorization application, copy in case number in the task part, and you would find the accept task item, as described in the room document. Of course, for the purpose of this exercise, please remember to log in into the competent authority page that is the reference for your SPC, the one that you selected. So if in your application you selected Sweden, then log in into the Swedish competent authority account. If you selected Finland, then the Finnish, and so on. Okay, let's move forward. So we are still company number 1. We see that in the event history, the acceptance has started. So as a Italian competent authority, I can run the acceptance, start working. I accept. And then I complete. If you are logged in as your competent authority, you should see that there is now a validation task created. So the next step is to click on Validate, start working, say that you validate the decision, the application, and then you complete it. From the company point of view, if you refresh the information about your application, you can see that now we are at the very final step of your evaluation. So we are here. Evaluate and decide. And after that, if everything is fine, in principle, you should get your asset number. Okay, it's probably time to finalize the task. So I clicked on Evaluate and Decide, doing exactly the same steps that I've been describing before. So I looked for the task, I open it. Now I click on Start Working. I have set a valid from, I can maybe change the expiry date to 10 years from now. Okay, the message. I just upload a supporting document. Again, the same point. Public. Everything is fine. I should be able to complete. Let's see what is happening to my application. Case approved by authority. This is what you should be able to see if everything went fine in your application. If the case was approved by authority, you should have an asset number. You're welcome.
So it will be
recorded.
This is filmed.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you should see that the case is closed approved in the cases list. And this is the asset number. So this is the asset that you should see in your asset list. Okay, so essentially this is what you should see if everything is fine. The asset number is here. As a company, in your asset list, this is the one that was generated today, the top one in the list. Now your company has its asset, has its value, and everything went well.